So I decided to make another video because I kind of got off the subject a little bit, you know, as I was making the video. The reason why I deserve justice, okay? And I think some people think that I'm trying to be greedy or I'm trying to, because I'm not, you know, I am not. I mean, I really don't need a bunch of stuff. And I'm not looking for work that requires like a management position. I was willing to accept other jobs. I know that I applied at certain jobs that were, I would consider beneath my skill level, but I was willing to do those. The point is that I deserve to have options available to me. Okay, when you close options off to people, that's a form of blacklisting and it's illegal. That's when they talk about obstructing someone. That's obstructing. All right. And then the fact that, you know, when I was actively looking for work, I mean, I was getting up every day at 6 o'clock in the morning, hitting all the ads and doing whatever I could, sending out thousands of resumes and exhausting myself. You know, not only did they create the issue here in this community, it was created in other locations, okay? Which means that this is a form of, obviously, gang stalking and human trafficking and whatever. And it's a control type thing where you're obstructing, okay? That crunches on my rights of existing, basically. So, like, when you... that's why this sort of thing is illegal. And so, you know, I tried leaving this community several times, okay? And I was not able to do so. I have the right to live my life. If I wasn't wanted here, then I have the right to live my life somewhere else. And see, because there was a system put in place, that's why it makes it so illegal. You know, that's the biggest issue that crunches on my human rights, okay? I think a lot of people... I don't know if they mean well or they're just, I'm sorry, but I personally think if anybody who involves themselves in this and not understanding the entire thing, or even whether they understand it or not, it's like, this is not the business of an entire community or a bunch of people. Other people should have never been involved in this, okay? Especially when you think of what I call corporate controlled relationships or something along those lines. Work issues legally should stay out of personal issues. They should not collide, okay? And I think in the olden days, you know, where people have, especially like smaller type communities, ma and pa type companies, you know, maybe the whole family's friends with the business owner or whatever, and that kind of stuff happens, okay? And then oftentimes people overstep their boundaries. You know, for example, a business owner might, you know, let's just say, for example, a woman wants to go out on maternity leave, okay? Actually, this is an actual example that I got from a lady who wrote into I think one of those advice columns, because she was really upset. She was talking about she needed to take care of her disability. So instead of her boss talking to her about it, he goes and starts talking to her husband about it. I mean, that pissed her off, all right? And the reason why is because the interaction is supposed to be between her and her employer, okay? What oftentimes employers do is they trample on the rights of women, you know, basically ignoring what the woman is saying, what she needs or whatever, and handling this. The husband's name is not on the contract of employment between her and her employer, okay? And I understand that you think this is a family issue, and yeah, it is a family issue, but still, she's the one on the payroll. You see what I'm saying? And these little illegal things get thrown in oftentimes, and they end up ruining the life of the woman. Like, you know, perhaps maybe in the past, you know, jobs were arranged by my ex-husband's family, okay? Okay, well, they're not anymore. And I'm not working anymore, okay? Does that mean that they're supposed to choose every other job that this person works? Even if that person's not, no, it's not, of course not. That's ridiculous, okay? Or when you hear of somebody saying, well, this woman's obviously making videos talking about how she's no longer married to this person, talked about the previous abuse that she experienced, talked about all these sort of things, and yet there's still people out there that are thinking, well, you need to be with this man. If you don't understand what an abusive relationship is, I don't know what to tell you. But whether if it was let's just say, for example, he was a nice guy, okay, which I don't really believe that he is at this point, okay, but let's just say if he was, okay, it's still up to that woman whether she wants to be in that marriage or not. Okay, you don't force marriages together. You don't do that. And you don't have other people becoming involved in personal issues like that. And so this is why, I'm talking about this, because there's a lot of women who end up losing everything that they have because of the incompetent behavior of people who are supposed to know better. And it's dangerous. It's dangerous. There's a lot of women who've got themselves in this situation. And I've never wanted anyone to give me anything. This is where this whole thing is like completely unjust. It makes absolutely no sense that I could be swept up into something like this, because I never asked Joel I remember when he and I first got together, I never said, do you think your mom can help me? Or do you think your aunt can help me? Or do you think your cousin can? I never asked for that. And then I get abused, like I went against authority because I did something that they didn't, whatever it was that they didn't like. You know what I mean? When I had no idea that this was the way it was in the first place. Okay. So it was wrong. Okay. So what you end up doing is you end up cornering a person and blocking, obstructing, and destroying a person's life. And I don't want to continue talking about Joel's family because I would really like to forget these people. Okay. And it's in my best interest to do so. Obviously I did talk to a counselor, or if you want to call it a therapist or whatever, and before about this issue. And it is extremely traumatizing knowing that somebody would actually go through something like this. That somebody would want to dictate every little thing that you do, even right down to what you do in your own home. Especially when you've said, you got to understand how this comes off from my point of view. And from a legal standpoint, how I understand it based on the law and what that means and how terrified that makes a person. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, yeah, it's traumatizing, right? It's traumatizing. So really, in actuality, the farmer should be sued. The lady over in Chatsworth should be sued. Just like when I left the news station and then I looked for work in the other community and I was asked about my marriage and I was denied a job based on my marital status. These people should be, I'm seriously, I would be racking up just like a pinball, bing, 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 lawsuits, and I would have won. I would have won. And then after all of that, then dealing with the stalking that went on, the fake job interviews, all of that, I would have won. And the reason why I'm upset about it is because it went on for decades before me even really catching on to what was going on. And then now I'm in this situation. So I deserve compensation. I do. Okay. But obviously I'm not going to court, right? I'm not going to go to court for that particular reason. Okay. But I deserve compensation, and I don't expect to ever get what's rightfully mine, what fair. I don't expect people to be fair. Okay. Because there's always some kind of bullshit that goes on. But what I do expect is to be left alone. It's just respectful. The most respectable thing you can do. I don't want to deal with people like that. And I don't want to deal with, maybe you don't want me making $45,000, $50,000 a year. And then, okay, fine, whatever. Okay, I was willing to take, 25, 30,000, whatever, something reasonable. Okay, so I don't have to sit here and rely on my child for the rest of his life, okay? And it's funny how people allow this to even happen. Like, why is it that these people should be paying my bills directly? And really, I don't want that. I don't want anything from these people. I don't want any handouts, cash, whatever. If she ends up dying and she has a big, I don't want to inherit her money. I don't want anything from these people. I don't. Okay? I choose to live my life. And this is what I did when I first got my kid, realized I was going to have to be on my own. This is what I was prepared to do. This is what I understood I needed to do. And so that's the way it is. And some people say that's bold. To me, that's the only way you're supposed to be. You know what I mean? Especially when you're a woman and you're a woman, you no longer communicate with the people that you used to know. I don't have any what do you call it? Close bonds or anything like that. So I have to rely on myself. You know, I'm not going to sit here and allow myself to walk blindly into a relationship and get into another relationship where there's somebody who's controlling me. And then me being in a relationship where I'm living in this man's house, and then he's going around talking to employers, and then the next thing you know, here's another abusive situation. And it can easily happen. So I have to keep my eyes wide open. You know, I have to protect myself. And rightfully so. You know, you can't. And I think, you know, when you're dealing with people like, especially from the older generation, some people don't understand why some people have to be independent. Some people just have to be. They don't have a choice unless they're going to put themselves in an abusive situation. You know, it would be dumb for me to think, well, I'm just going to go jump and get into another relationship, which I know a lot of women do. A lot of women jump into getting into relationships right after something else, and then that would be the dumbest thing you could possibly do. Knowing that you don't have any financial background, backing, you don't have this, you don't have that, and then you're going to put yourself into another vulnerable situation. See, nobody thinks about those sort of things. They thought they had my life all planned out, okay? But that relationship was extremely abusive. Traumatizing is what it was, okay? Traumatizing because, you know, you're going to let somebody go through this sort of mental anguish for years, okay? Seeing this person going through this sort of mental anguish and then taking the necessary steps to get out of the situation, and then these people were still hanging around. That's stalking. That's abuse. Okay? And I don't want to keep going on to it. I really do want to forget. You know, I don't want to, like, make these people think that I want to continue an argument, because I don't. I don't want to argue about anything. But I do want people to understand why they should not get involved in these sort of things. Why human trafficking, or that human trafficking is, in fact, an actual thing that takes place. And what you should be looking out for when you deal with human trafficking. All right? When you hear of somebody who is, their employment is being manipulated, especially by a former spouse, lover, something along those lines, that right there is an indication that that's human trafficking, and that this person is a domestic stalker. Okay, and I've outlined it several times, you know, and I know some people think, but maybe in some women's mind, but he must love her. He must love her. No. Okay, some people don't love their spouses. Some people might need them. Some people might be really lonely, or they just want to control somebody, or maybe it's coming from a racist point of view. Maybe he feels as though I'm supposed to be subjugated, or whatever. Whatever his reasons are, it has nothing to do with love. Okay? If you love somebody, you would never do what you did. Okay? And I don't care at this point. To me, you're right up there with a fucking murderer at this point. I don't see any difference. Okay? I don't see any difference at all. Or rapist or something along those lines. Something I don't want to have to deal with, or face or whatever. So, you know, when you've been blacklisted, when you know, my life is where it's like, well, what if I wanted to move to Maryland? Or what if I wanted to move to New York? What if I wanted to do that? What if I wanted to get in my car and go to the East Coast just because, and I just want to find a little place, settle down there? That should be my right. I should have the freedom and the mobility to do that if I want to. But somebody put something in place to where I can't do that. That's illegal. Do you see what I'm saying? So, you know, it was wrong. You don't own people. You don't own people. You know? And you've limited my life. You know? And you took over something that you had no right to take over. You know? You don't have the right to sit here and, like, you know, plan my jobs, tell me how I'm supposed to work, you know, my work ethic, and picking all this stuff apart when I never had a formal agreement to do that in the first place. And this is, I'm not necessarily talking about Joel's family. I'm talking about targets in any situation. Like when people are going around abusing other people in this sort of manner, and it's abuse. Human trafficking is abuse. Okay, because oftentimes when you're dealing with human trafficking, you're dealing with people who want to jerk your chain. They want to hurt you in some way. Okay, for example, when I had an issue with, I wasn't happy working over at that the last job. Okay, the contracting place, and so there was a time where I was expressing some of that discontentment in one of my videos, and I noticed sometimes that I would get paid late. Or something like that. Okay, now he got better as time went on. He stopped playing his dumb bullshit game. But the point is that, when you work for a reputable employer, the reason why payroll is supposed to be on a specified day or a designated day, and they just fucking better well get your fucking paycheck on that day, is because you are going to be breaking certain rules, guidelines, and regulations. Okay, and why? Because that's a form of abuse. You work that day, you best get paid. You know what I mean? You're entitled to like overtime and all these other sort of things that you're deserving. Yes, he did pay me overtime, but my point is that you don't try to punish people in those sort of manners. And I was being punished because I personally feel as though there was some sort of relationship with Joel's mom and him and whatever. And she, in her weird mind, thought that I wanted her son. I don't want her son. I was well on my way of getting those divorce papers cleared while I was working over at that contracting place. And by that time, when I got my divorce papers, I was like, okay, I really need to find my own job now. But it was this bullshit was still going on. Still going on. Maybe she thought I wanted her son. And then she didn't want me to wear my hair at work because maybe, then he would want me back or some crazy stuff or whatever. But then again, she didn't want me to be with somebody else either. You know what I mean? So then she was becoming obsessed about what I was wearing and all this other stuff. It doesn't matter. I'm not, to me, the whole thing was terrifying. And then going into job interviews and seeing people smiling, that look on their face, and it looked perverted and sick. Because I understand what this is. It's like you don't present people. When a person is terrified, when a woman is trying to get away from her abuser, and you got these weirdos that are grouping together and trying to force you to stay with that loser, that person who abused you, okay? That's traumatizing. Now, I've been thinking a lot about, I don't really think about it anymore, but in the beginning, I did consider, okay, the psychological reasons as to why these people behave the way that they do, okay? And I remember, I used to always be the kind of person that was like, I want to understand why people behave the way that they do. And now I'm at this point where it's like, you know what? I do understand why they behave the way that they do, okay? And I accept that this is who they are, but I don't want anything to do with it. It's not something I can overlook. It's not something I can forgive. I cannot forgive that. I cannot forgive that. The years of me losing my jobs, and then you thinking that you had some sort of right to tell me how I'm supposed to work, where I'm supposed to work, how I'm supposed, all of it. And then trying to control my relationships. Spreading all kinds of gossip and stuff so that I lose, relationships that I've had before, people that I used to know, creating all of this. I honestly, I don't even know Joel's family. Not really. I met his cousin Callie or his aunt Callie or once or twice. I don't remember what she looks like. I don't. I remember meeting his aunt once or twice. This lady named Beth, I don't remember what she looks like. I don't remember. Okay. But whatever it is that their behavior towards me is improper. It is improper. And it is racist. Okay. It is highly racist. The very fact that you feel like you can tell a person what to do and how to act and then try to limit their rights, it's not only is it racist, it's sexist, and it's barbaric. It's something that's like, to me, it's like, I can't even believe something like this is happening in this day and age. It's shocking. It's shocking. Okay, so I think I've had enough. I'm going to wrap up this video. I need to start making some lunch. A very boring day today. I might go back outside a little bit. I don't know. It is a beautiful day. I try to get out as much as I can because it's very boring in here. I'm tired of looking at movies. You know, I'm tired of listening to music. You know, I'm just sick and tired of being in the house. So, you know, I try to find time to get outside as much as I possibly can. It was beautiful this morning. So I might go back out a little bit later after lunch or maybe sometime closer to the evening. Until then, I'm wrapping up this video. Have a good night. Bye.